Hello and welcome to Esther's Gardening Adventures. I'm Esther and I've been away on a work trip all week. So I'm finally back and boy, there's so much new stuff going on. We have daffodils blooming in the background here. The jugs, the seeds that I have winter sown are doing well. And also I have to show you what I'm doing to prepare my community garden plots for the year. So let's get going. These are daffodils that were here when we bought the property a few years ago. And they keep coming back every year, although I have been better about cutting back the heads so they can put energy into the roots, and so they're much more thriving than they were a couple of years ago. So pretty. I love daffodils in the spring. Now, if you recall, in the fall, I planted a bunch of daffodil and tulip bulbs here in this square foot bed. This had kind of been neglected the year before. I just left it, hadn't done much with it. So I went ahead and planted some tulip and daffodil bulbs. And it looks like they're coming up. They're shorter than the ones over there. And then here, this is one of my native plant beds that I've left kind of to go over the winter, and you can see stuff is already starting to come in. This is my anise hyssop here. Look how pretty these leaves are. Nice purpley green leaves. They're growing right where the plant was before, and I've left this out so birds could eat the seeds. Who knows, we might have some reseeding happening with this over here. And I think I see some other stuff growing in that I'd planted before. So that's really, including, I think those might be the New England asters, but I don't know my plants quite well enough to know for sure. We also have some buds forming on our dogwood. And then over here we have, this is my 9-bark bush, which has survived the winter and has some, I don't know how well you can see, it has some kind of buds growing in here a little bit. I got this just like that tall sapling, so it'll take a couple years to build out, but it's native to Maryland. I'm in zone 7A. I had planted the rest of my tulip bulbs as well as some daffodils, I think, in this bed, and you can see they've also come up. And this over here is my witch hazel plant. Witch hazel, the American version, the native version, is native to this area. And it'll be several years before I can start harvesting witch hazel sticks, as you can see, for making witch hazel for facial treatments and other purposes. But the plant is doing well, so I'm excited about that. I want to show you that I have a few new blooms that I'm really excited about. First of all, let's find it. This is showy goldenrod. This is one of the experiments I'm doing. This has 60 days cold stratification, and I planted it on 12/30. And not only that, but this was one of the jugs the dogs knocked over and the soil got all tossed around. But even though they were tossed around and the soil was moved, we had 2 sprouts come out, and I'll still get some showy goldenrod. So that goes to prove if your jug gets tossed over, knocked over by your dogs or by the wind or by you, human error, as can happen with me, that you shouldn't give up on that jug. Leave it and see what nature will do. You'll be surprised. I also want to show you the alpine strawberry seedlings that have emerged. I planted these, well, let's see, on the end of January, and we have some seedlings. So I'm going to have some alpine strawberries to transplant this year. And if you recall, I just recently did a video on the poppies that I planted, and we already have sprouts in here. Look how pretty they are. Both the Danish poppies and the both the Flanders poppies and the Danish flag poppies have sprouted. Oh, isn't that gorgeous? That is so exciting. I'm gonna have poppies this year, you guys. And this is the black peony poppies that I planted, and I'm gonna have so many. I'm gonna have to share this with people. I have so many. Oh gosh, I definitely didn't do 1 seed per hole for that. And while I'm at it, let me show you how the lettuce seedlings are doing. This is Merlot lettuce and Simpson lettuce. And last we checked in, the Simpson lettuce hadn't sprouted at all. So it's sprouted since I was gone, and it's doing well. But my absolute favorite jug here is just to show you the purple Napa cabbage. So we have Danish cabbage and purple Napa cabbage in here, and look how beautiful that purple cabbage is. So pretty. We're gonna have a lot of cabbage this year. Now let's go to the front yard and see what's going on there. We have the garlic that I planted in the fall here on this part of my square foot bed is growing. And I have a couple more things to show you that's really exciting. So first of all, This is black-eyed Susans here. You can see the flower heads, and they're kind of pretty actually. I think in the winter they keep kind of a pretty form for having some, I don't know the right term for it, something to show in the garden. But you can see the black-eyed Susans are growing in, so they're well on their way to coming back for the next year. Look how beautiful that is. And in addition, I guess the fact that I left these here to kind of help shelter them, the parsley. I have freaking parsley growing in my front yard that's from last year, so it's perennial here. I guess if it's sort of sheltered by the other plants. That's really exciting. I'm going to cut some of that and have that in my salad. In this corner bed where I have bulbs, and look how the hyacinths are blooming. They weren't up. In fact, some of them are already starting to fade. They hadn't bloomed when I left. They were just starting to come out of the tops. Oh, they're going to be so pretty when they're fully ready. This is my hyacinth and the tulips that I had last year. They came back a second year. And then this is my yarrow. I'll call it a bush, even though it's technically a plant. And I tell you what, yarrow has some green all winter round. Last year, this has been a pretty mild winter, but last year we had green, when it was colder, we had tons of green happening with the yarrow. And yarrow is native to this area. It spreads by rhizomes, I think, as well as seed. And thus far, it hasn't been a problem for me. And then this, speaking of herbs that have survived, this is thyme. And I think I winter sowed these, although I might have gotten them as starts at a box store. But it has also overwintered and done really well. It's bushed out beautifully down the end here of this bed. So I don't need to worry about growing thyme this year, although I have some orange yellow thyme I think I'm growing. And then these iris, this is a mix of iris that I got last year that was purple this is little patches in memory of my uncle, Bruce. But there's a couple iris that I planted from bulb last year in the fall. I think I might have had a third over here, or that might have been it, because I know these two here were here before. So we're going to have some more iris in the late spring, early summer as well. And then, you may have noticed these blocks here, and I have some more over here. I want to tell you a tale of using free stuff to build out my garden. So these blocks that are surrounding this bed, I got for free 2 years ago, and I made the bed that way. And then a couple days ago, about 2 weeks ago, someone was offering up these in the Buy Nothing group I'm at, and I went and got them in my car and hauled them here. And over time, I'm going to be building out the free reused materials on my garden. Now, I am buying some new stuff, but if you're patient, and if you live in an area where people give away stuff, not everybody's as fortunate as I am, but if you're patient and you live in an area where people give away stuff, you'll get things like these I got in the fall to add a path to my garden. And look how much nicer it has having a real path. It looks intentional, right? And let's follow the path. So this is Indian grass. This is a native, or Indian sea oats. Let's see if we have any sea oats that haven't fallen. This is what they look like, although they're usually more brown in the fall. This is what the sea oats look like. You have to be careful. They do spread a lot, I've heard. This will be my third year having these. And the first year they were just really spindly. The second year they gave me some. And this is a mostly shade area, so they're probably never going to get as big and crazy as they can in some locations. But you can see they're growing back. We're going to have some really pretty, there's some weeds there, but some really pretty Indian sea oats. And in fact, I should move this chair to not cover up these sea oats. There we go. The corner bed over here, which is also a mostly native bed. You can see more yarrow growing. In between is the purple, non-native, but perennial columbine. But we do have some native columbine coming up here. This is the red columbine. Now I grew these via winter sowing, and there's some more over there. I grew these via winter sowing last year, and I transplanted them. And of course they take a year or two to bloom, so I'm hoping I'll get some blooms out of them this year. One of the areas that I keep telling myself I'm gonna get to but haven't is over here on this side of the house. I don't have the heart to break up this brush pile that I've started creating just by tossing stuff over there. There's probably some great compost under there, but I suspect, because there's like tree branches and stuff, that some critters are using that for the winter. So I'm hoping by like May, June, I can clear it away without worrying about disrupting anything that's hibernating or any baby bunnies or anything like that, and be able to start making this area something I can use. Now, I said I'm going to show you the community garden stuff, but before I do that, let me show you something that's going on inside the house. So if you know me, you know how much I grow the vast majority of my stuff using winter sowing. But this year I thought, let me try starting some things indoors under grow lights. I want the full experience. So here we have, these are strawberry starts I got from a great company that I'm going to do a video on very shortly. So I'll get to that soon. But let's look at these. So I've been gone a week and I watered them before I left. So they probably need a little reviving, and I'm going to transplant them up today. But this is German chamomile, which is looking really good overall. This is curled parsley. Oh yeah. Part of the reason I'm starting it indoors is because I want to have a windowsill herb garden. This is Greek dwarf basil. I'm also going to have for my windowsill herb garden. And some stevia. Oh, actually it looks like one. I thought I had seen a second one sprouting, but I'll be happy with just one stevia plant. I also have some baby orange yellow thyme here. Australian brown onion starts that I need to I'm going to put them outside for a couple hours today to start getting them used to the outdoor temperatures. And a little more chamomile, probably because it's not so crowded, is looking better. And this here is coleus that I've started. And boy, I'm going to show you an image from a week ago. 5 days ago, how much smaller these things were. They have doubled in size, but look at that beautiful leaf. Coleus are great for growing in a shade bed. They're not native, but they can be a real beautiful sort of filler color statement. And I'm growing most of these for my mom. These are, this is mixed coleus and king coleus seedlings. Aren't they so pretty? Oh, but I will probably put some of these in my shade bed as well. Now, let me also note that I think winter sowing is a great way to grow any of these things. And in fact, I'm growing some onions using winter sowing that specifically the Cabernet onions didn't sprout here, but they sprouted in winter sowing. So see, it can go really well without using this. But I wanted the experience of trying things indoors. I definitely think there's a lot less to worry about when you're doing winter sowing than growing indoors under grow lights. First of all, the transplanting up thing takes time. All right, now let's head to the community garden plots and I'll show you what I'm doing. Check it out. My garlic that I planted in the fall here at my first community garden bed is doing well. This is German garlic, and I think might have done music, or I might have done German the whole way through. I can't remember. Given that I didn't give it a second tag, I think it's all German. But yeah, so you can tell, you can see how much bigger this garlic is compared to this. This I planted about 2 weeks before I came back and planted up these in the fall. And I guess they got a further head start in the fall than these did. One of the things I really want to do with my first community garden plot, the one that I had last year as well as this year, of course, was to add a raised bed near the back of the fence of the plot. And I had gotten these 4x8 boards as well as the blocks from my mom and dad. My dad helped haul up, basically put them in the car and brought them up to me, which was awesome. And I'd laid them out, but once I laid out the 4x8 beds, I realized that the bed was too long and it would be hard to access all parts of the raised bed with it being that long and being right up against the fence, which I kind of needed to be because otherwise the weeds will grow back there. So I actually had 2 more 4-foot long boards that I'm adding here instead. And this will mean that I can reach into the center of the bed from at least 3 areas, and that'll give me pretty full coverage. Over in this corner here, we have my original compost pile where I tossed all the weeds I was weeding when I started this plot. And look how rich that soil is. It's just beautiful. So I'm leaving that in there. I'm going to mix it in a little bit, and I'm adding perlite for fluffiness, as well as Coast of Maine. I think it's like seashells and things like that, compost, as well as leaf grow compost, which is a relatively easy filler and cheap filler for some good nitrogen. And then also some cow manure compost. So you want to have a good variety of compost mixed into your bed. Now, how well I actually mixed it all together, that's another question. Now, I want to use this bed this year for growing corn primarily, although I'm going to grow some vining plants near the back. I watched a great video by one of my favorite local gardener YouTube channels called The Rusted Garden, where he grows corn in a 4x4 plot, and you can grow it much closer together. It'll need a lot of watering, but it's doable. So I'm hoping to try to grow corn this year for the first time, and we'll see how it goes. Now I know that there's probably much more efficient ways of mixing your compost and perlite and all the different composts together and spreading it out, but I love working my hands in the soil, and it kind of feels like playing in a sandbox where I'm kind of building up and spreading it out, and yeah, I just have fun doing this. I really actually get a lot of pleasure from mixing it all together. Although eventually I do have to use a rake to kind of help finish up the job. All right, this is my second community garden plot, the new one for me this year, and I'm using weed blocker and free mulch that the county provides. You just have to haul from the end of the gardens and in the parking lot where you see all the cars. And this is a way to reduce my need to weed between the aisles, between the rows, because I definitely am not going to have time with 2 garden plots this year plus the ones at home. I'm not going to have time to spend every day weeding like I did last year. So this is a way to get this garden ready and have a really productive year. All right, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please hit that like button if you did, and I'll see you next time.